Hey guys, welcome to the East of the Week podcast. My name is Waya and I'm here with
GK.
and I'm gonna let GK here tell y'all about this podcast.
All right, so this is a new podcast that we're going to start off here, and we're going to tell you a little bit about our program every week, what's going on inside the ropes, and we're going to bring on special people here and there. And today we got some very important people we're going to bring onto this podcast and a furry friend, so just stay tuned and we'll be back.
Okay, y'all, after a sponsor break, we'll be right back with y'all.
One of England's longest-standing businesses is Delbert's Merle Norman. It's been serving England for 46 strong years. They have hair services by Delbert Minton and Savannah Roy Sanders, nail services by Laurie Minton, and for your skincare and cosmetic needs, visit our Merle Norman counter. Boldly Beautiful by Sable offers permanent cosmetics, brows, eyeliner, and lips. Come shop local for your jewelry and gift needs. We are a one-stop shop. Come see us today. You can see them in person at 117 South Main Street, or you can call ahead at 501-842-3622. You can see them in person at 117 South Main Street, or call ahead at 501-842-3622.
Hey guys, and we're back with
GK.
and we have our two special guests that we were talking about a minute ago. Y'all can introduce yourselves.
We are the Walking America couple, Torin and Paige Rouse.
Nice to meet y'all. Nice to have y'all on.
Thanks for having us.
So we would like to know, how did y'all start this journey?
Ooh, it was very cumulative. There are a lot of steps that it takes to, get into the headspace that would make you want to walk across the country. But really, I think more than anything, it started out as a quest for contentment and trying to learn how to live in your head a little bit better. The motivation for it, more than anything else, was to subject ourselves to the kinds of uncertainty and hardship that would force us into becoming comfortable with discomfort, uncertainty, and hardship.
Yeah, that's amazing. So when it comes to walking across, like, do y'all have a specific route that y'all like to take? Or, because I seen, correct me if I'm wrong here, where y'all started somewhere north a little bit of Arkansas, y'all are going south now. Is there like a specific route through the states y'all like to take, or y'all going vertical, horizontal? Like, how are y'all doing this?
So the goal is to do 12,000 miles between all 50 states, and we're planning just a little section of the route at a time. So right now, we only have Arkansas and Louisiana planned out in detail, but we've planned all of the roads that we'll take on the way down to make sure we can take a safe route.
Yeah. Whenever y'all are doing this, like, what are some close encounters on the road y'all have had? Is there been some crazy experiences that y'all may have had?
I would say so, but probably not in the manner that I think a lot of people are expecting. Most people are worried about other people, but one of the things that we've found is that there is a lot more goodness out there than people realize. Traffic, more than anything, is our biggest concern because people are not paying attention. Yeah. We wave at everybody on the road, and I would say at least 30% of people wave back to us with their cell phone in their hand, and many more are actually using their cell phone. They're just not waving back with it.
Yeah.
What are some of the conditions y'all stayed in? Like some of the conditions, like the way y'all. I see on y'all TikTok y'all stayed in a vacant house one time with a creepy door. And I just want to know like some of those experiences.
Oh yeah.
We've stayed in and outside of just about everything you could think of. We've slept under the road and under bridges, and
we've slept in mansions as well. In Montana, that we were actually hosted in the Ringling Mansion. For those of you who know who the Ringling brothers are, they're a pretty famous couple of people. We've slept on a camel farm, in tree nurseries, in the middle of the woods, on a bluff that sat right over the Rio Grande in Colorado.
in a museum train caboose.
Historic train caboose. That was a funny one because we had reached out to the museum. It was one of the few places in town that had like some spare land, and we asked them if we could pitch a tent on their property because we didn't have any other options at that moment. We got there and we met with the director of the museum, and he had taken a liking to us. He goes, I'm not supposed to do this, but you guys want to sleep in the caboose? It was this, it was like an antique display, right? It was something for those who were touring to just look at from the outside, but he let us inside, and it was quite the experience also.
Yeah, I see y'all shirts. They have like a heart and a brain. I see in a face.
Mhm.
Like, what is that? What is the meaning behind those shirts?
Oh, it represents training neural connections toward a more loving perspective. One of the things that we're raising awareness for on this journey is the nature of mind and its capacity for change. Our brains physiologically change according to the things we direct our attention towards. So, uh, when I say that, I mean it's referred to as neuroplasticity. You actually develop connections toward in order to aid whatever it is that you're attempting to do with your brain. So people that are really heavily stimulated with social media, they'll develop a shorter attention span, but they can switch their attention rapidly between tasks. Whereas people that spend more of their time reading arduous articles or antiquated philosophy or something like that, they'll develop a longer attention span and they'll be able to stay honed in on something for a longer period of time. But that same nature of mind, that's true with regard to everything that we do, including the thoughts that we think about our neighbors and our fellow man. We can train a more loving perspective and get along with people in a different way.
Yeah. Has this journey that y'all been on, has it changed your perspective on like humanity in any way? For the good or worse?
Dramatically, yes, definitely for the better. When we started, like he was saying, it was really a journey to improve ourselves. But after walking from Missouri through Kansas into Colorado, we were meeting all sorts of small town people that were letting us into their homes to stay and helping us in all sorts of ways. And they had no way to even look us up at the time. We had no website or Facebook or anything like that. And they were very trusting and helpful. And it's really the reason we kept walking is because of the perspective that they gave us of what the world is really like and how much we can change ourselves.
Yeah.
How how bumpy did the road get mentally? Like mentally, how did it affect y'all's relationship and your family and friends? What did they think about this?
Sure. Well, the highs are very high and the lows are very low on the road. You are subjected to all of it, and some days are much harder than other days. But it actually probably nurtured our relationship because it wasn't until after our first 6-month segment that we went back home and got married. Because the highs are so high and the lows are so low, you see how your partner reacts to these extreme conditions, and you learn a lot about each other. And I certainly learned that Paige was the one that I would like to spend the rest of my life with because, for one thing, she's incredibly resilient. She's not a complainer. Although I was the one initially inspired to take on this journey, man, she's stronger than I am most of the time.
That's very sweet.
That's amazing.
I love that.
So this journey, it's really helped build y'all's relationship together, quite frankly.
Definitely.
And that's amazing. Whenever y'all are walking and y'all see these nice people and meet all these nice people, that's really what motivates y'all to keep going, is it?
Yes, we would not be doing the walk just for ourselves at this point. We learned a lot about how much we can grow, but after doing it for half a year or a year, you've learned most of what you will about your own resiliency, but we want to share a message to try and impact people.
Yeah. So whenever y'all complete this amazing journey, are y'all have aspirations to do something bigger? Maybe walking across North America? I mean,
We're definitely not committing to anything yet. We got about 3 more years to go, and we've been at it for 2.5. It's a lot already that we've bitten off. I'm not sure exactly what we will go on to do. It's hard to imagine that adventure won't have some place in our life in the future after the walk, but we do have aspirations to build a homestead, and I would like to be I'd like to spend a little bit more time as a hermit and just kind of hunker down and read many of the books that are stacking up on my to-read list and meditate a little bit more. And just the journey's very stimulating. It's very social, and I think I would probably like to do the opposite of it for a little bit whenever it's over.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I see y'all made it to 24 out of the 50 states. What is the best experience you had out of one of those states?
We often fall back on this one, probably the Mennonites up in Wisconsin. We were talking to you a little bit about it
Yeah.
earlier,
Yeah.
but the reason that the Mennonites were so impressive was just because they're at the far extreme of what society could be. They're a living example of the roots that we've kind of withdrawn from. Conversationally, they exist at a different tempo. They have often in contemporary society, when we talk about things, we have this very quick trading of experiences. It's haphazard and it's scattered. They have the ability to focus in on a conversation because their attention isn't quite as hijacked as ours have become. And so they will fully realize a conversational topic and they can talk about it for an hour and just stay on point the entire time. The kids, one of the things that really stood out to me is that the mom had to get them to pull away from reading because it was time for bed. They were reading for entertainment rather than many of the things that we're often doing for entertainment, which, even if it's preventing them from going to sleep, seems like as productive a thing as there could be to distract them from that.
Yeah, that's beautiful. It's actually pretty nice. Like, a lot of us refrain to, like, when we turn on the TV to go to sleep, or we get on our phones and scroll through TikTok or do all this other stuff instead of, like, reading or doing something productive. But, like, that's beautiful that they do that. So, we have the states like Hawaii and Alaska. Like, how do y'all figure y'all are gonna get there? Do that, like boating, flying. You can't walk.
Yeah, we'll either take a plane or a boat, or Alaska. We could hypothetically ride some other transportation there, but it's not too planned out yet. It'll probably be their last couple states.
Yeah.
It'll be like our other segments, right, where we get dropped and then we walk an allotted number of miles that we've designed according to the landscape that we're going to be navigating.
Very detailed.
Hawaii won't even be very long because I think their longest road system is just over 200 miles. So it will be one of our shortest segments. And Alaska we will definitely not be walking to because that would take us the same distance it took us to walk our longest 2,500 mile route.
Just to get there.
To get there, yeah.
Whenever y'all do get to Alaska, do y'all plan on y'all gonna walk like the urban areas, or are y'all plan on walking like the rural areas where nobody is? Like,
I haven't looked into it a lot, but it'll be consecutive, so we'll go from one town to another. I don't know how populated it is. We'll probably do a few of the larger towns, try to meet some of the people.
I did some digging, just to make sure that it was possible before we tacked those onto the list. There are a cluster of cities or towns that are fairly close together, population that we can rely on, obviously, for our food sources and water and things like that. But we're not too shy of venturing out a little bit further. Wouldn't mind that. Some of those experiences have been some of our more memorable ones, like we did Wyoming and Montana this summer, and we went through over 225 miles without civilization, where we had to ship ourselves food and went without showering for over a week, and we were sleeping under the road, much more survival-like. And although it's hard, it's very memorable, and you remember those experiences in a way that you don't always some of the other places. Sometimes the towns blend together, and you just kind of lose track of all of it in memory.
Yeah.
What did your family and friends think about y'all starting this journey? Like, what did they say about it?
I think they didn't quite get it originally, didn't understand the motivation, but as we've come back home and told them about our experiences with other people and continued to walk, they've become very supportive and appreciative, I think, of the journey.
Yeah, I think my parents are a little bit jaded and numb to it because I've been doing this for a while. Not walking America specifically, but I ventured off to explore about 7 years ago, I think.
Yeah.
And so it's just kind of par for the course for them. But I know that they're supportive of it. Like they've seen what we've done and the impact that we've had on people, and I think they're what
Yeah. And that's really good. And y'all are able to, like you said, y'all go back home and, what are the periods like, when do y'all decide it's time to go back home and how long will y'all stay for?
It's all variable, so it depends on the segment, how long it is. Our 11-month segment, we went home for,
3 months?
I think it was about 2 months.
2 months?
Took about 2 months off because we were on the road for almost a year and
Yeah.
wanted a long-term break and to spend a good amount of time with family, not feel like we had to rush and get everything ready for the next one. But it's usually a little shorter. Last time we were home for a month, and we imagine we'll be home just short of a month this next break because it's only a little over 2 months long, this section.
Yeah, and that month isn't really, it's not all vacation.
Yeah.
A lot of it is getting prepared. I mean, it took Paige over 4 days just to design this segment because we've sandwiched ourselves into some really bad situations with traffic. And, you know, you have to walk, like, when you walk through 3 days of feeling like you're going to die every single day because you just picked the wrong road, we've grown increasingly careful about not letting that happen again. So it took her over 4 days just to design this route. And then you have to do a bunch of gear research for the area that you're going to be going into, get a bunch of gear shipped to yourself, and we, of course, make our rounds with family and try to visit everybody. And the time to ourselves isn't as much as you would expect in that month. A lot of it is just... And we're always feeding the beast, too. We're constantly plugged into the Facebook algorithm. If you stagnate for any period of time, it deprioritizes you, and we work on that daily.
Yeah.
When y'all make it home, do y'all ever have struggles of going back out and like ever second guess doing it again?
The anticipation grows. We grow more and more nervous, I think, the longer we're home because we acclimate to not being as active, not being in the elements, not being in danger of traffic or the weather. And we always have a little bit of reservation going back to it, but we're very aware of what's happening. And we know that once we hop back on the road, we'll grow accustomed again. It'll feel normal. And at this point, we hop on the road. I'm like, okay, yeah, this is what I remember. It's not scary. And like, basically, as soon as we get there.
The weird thing is that you never identify with the person who walks across the country. Once you've been home for a while, you think about the stuff that you've done, and that doesn't feel like you. You think to yourself, who is that guy? And then you're forced into re-becoming that when you hit the road again. You just have to kind of go into it with the faith that you can become that all over again. But it's scary, you know, I mean, like, there's a reason that people don't walk across the country, and it's because of, for one thing, it hurts all the time, you know, when you're putting in that many miles every day. You just kind of live in a constant state of pain, and there's all of the uncertainty on top of it. Will I find somewhere to stay? You know, how are the people going to be? What dangers lie ahead? You always risk dying when you get out onto the road, and so you have to face that, but you just go into it with the faith that it's going to be okay, and you can acclimate to just about anything. That really is one of the examples that we're trying to set, is that you can find contentment under nearly any circumstance if you train your thoughts properly, if you shape the right perspective, and sometimes that requires subjecting yourself to the right experiences.
I think we often have this idea of other people doing something that we think is, like, that's difficult, or we think it's out of reach, and we say, oh, well, they could do that. I mean, that's easy for them to say, but it really wasn't easy to acclimate to. It was very difficult, and we had to change a lot as people to grow into the kind of person that could do this without driving ourselves crazy mentally, getting used to accepting the discomfort. And
if you focus on all of the problems that you face, it could be absolutely insufferable and unbearable. It really is about the perspective that you have. Like, for the longest time, we didn't know where we were going to sleep tonight. We just happened to have a host that gave us a bit of a backup plan, but we didn't know. You know, you walk off into uncertainty, and if you have the wrong perspective on it, you can just fixate on it and dread it. And that's true every day. It's rare that we ever have more than a couple of days planned ahead for ourselves with regard to where we're going to sleep. And the same is true even when it comes to finances. We started this journey with only $200 just kind of with the faith that it would work out. And the bank account oscillates. It's up and down, but it's like every time you start scraping the bottom of the barrel, something comes back to replenish it.
Mm-hmm.
And you can grow to be comfortable with all of that.
Yeah.
And that's amazing. So y'all are basically a nonprofit at this point, correct? Like y'all thrive or survive, I would say, off the generosity of other people and the donations that they may give you. Is like, let's say y'all have a dry spell where y'all, the rural area where y'all have gone, when you walk 200 miles where there's nobody, and do y'all have reserves? Like, what happens if y'all just kind of run low on funds? Does it come back? Y'all got reserves? What's your backup plan? You know what I mean?
We have a bit of a cushion now, but we didn't originally. We've built that over the course of time, and it depletes sometimes more than others. So right now, Arkansas has been pretty good to us, but we're also looking ahead to our future segment. We loosely plan. I don't want to commit
It's
to
a rough
anything.
idea.
Yeah,
Of what
rough
we'll
idea.
do next. Yeah.
We expect that we will more than likely walk Nevada into Idaho as the summer comes on, and that will be lots of nothing. We probably won't make any money whatsoever while we're there because there's nobody out there.
Yeah.
And
So
we'll-
we set aside everything that we can, but it's definitely not a huge profit, never.
we're trying to do it smart so that we walk the more populated states before we walk the more desolate states.
Yeah.
And obviously, this isn't for the money. This is for yourselves and other people around you. What's the impact y'all look to have forward for people like who see y'all's journey? Like, do y'all want to try to reinstate faith in humanity for them when they see y'all's journey? They see the good that other people have done for y'all. Is that the view y'all are trying to give other people to yourselves and what y'all do?
That's definitely a big part of it, but the central focus is how we can shape our own perspective. We hope not just to convince people that there's a lot of kindness in the world, but to show them that they can have a better perspective and be able to see it more themselves in their own life and be able to treat people in a way that creates that reciprocal kindness in ways that people might not realize. If there's someone that you don't typically get along with, you might be able to approach them in a different way that makes that interaction more loving.
Yeah, I think Paige really touched on the right word there, reciprocal. We live in a reciprocal world, and I don't want to be reductive and say that that's the way that it's always going to be. You know, you can put your best foot forward, and you're not always going to be met with the best response. But by and large, people want to do good. They want to be good, and we really struggle to figure out how to do that when somebody else is rubbing us the wrong way. And that's definitely more of our intention than just to say, hey, look, there's goodness in the world, but that we will all make the world a better place if we recognize this basic fact about the world and we recognize those tendencies within ourselves, right? If we acknowledge that we're very likely to reciprocate and we ought to be on guard against reciprocating negativity for negativity, we can guard against that, right? Work on turning the other cheek, and then you're more likely to be met with goodness after the fact. We created a recent video, Change the Inside, Change the Outside, and it dives into that a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I seen it on the back of y'all's shirt. It says,
Mm-hmm.
I was reading that while y'all were walking up here. I was like, what did that mean? Like, where did they get that from, and how did they, what is the backstory behind that meaning?
Change the Inside, Change the Outside is a bit of a philosophical motif, or it's like a recurring pattern that comes up in a lot of different ideologies and schools of thought. It's this sort of self-evident truth that many people have recognized in the past, and I think a lot of people recognize as being self-evident when you talk to them about it if you provide just a little bit of evidence for it, but we're not all wearing it on our sleeves. The reason that we're bringing attention to that is that typically when people want to change the world, they want to do so through external means. They want to create the kinds of legislation that will result in the society that they would like to inhabit. But if we don't first fix ourselves before we go about attempting to fix the world, there's no guarantee that we're going to be fixing it in the right way. There's the old adage, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So change the inside, change the outside it's not only an acknowledgement of the way that the world changes according to our own personal change, because if you imagine a world in which everybody turned their attention inward, that world, to become their best selves, that world would naturally drift in a better direction. It could become the world that we would all like to see. But instead, because people aren't working on self-improvement before anything else, we have people that don't really know, let's say, right from wrong. They're fixated on the wrong things, the wrong problems, attempting to improve the world, but through a sick perspective. So it's kind of holding up the mirror. Change the inside, change the outside. If you want to fix the world, you have to fix yourself. Yeah. We can always turn our attention back on ourselves. And a good example of that when it comes just to like having conversations with other people in practice would be, not everybody that you have a conversation with is going to be your cup of tea. And often in those moments, we're saying to ourselves, this person is annoying. Get me out of this conversation. I don't like it. Instead, you could say to yourself, wow, I'm easily annoyed. I don't have to be that way. I should really work on improving that. Here's my opportunity. The obstacle, therefore, becomes your way forward rather than you just looking for an escape route. It becomes an opportunity for growth.
Yeah. And when it comes to talking and meeting new people, and let's say you might not like the way that they do something, well, you got to find inside yourself first before you blame them for what they might be doing to aggravate you. You got to find inside yourself to why it aggravates you. And that's a really amazing message that brings towards other people, because that is very true. A lot of people have their own personal things that they deal with. They take it out on other people. And rather than trying to exert that rage, they need to insert it into peace and love in their own mind and body. And with that message, I feel like it could really bring a great outlook or perspective to how they need to better themselves before they try to better anything else, because everything might not be broken. And if it's not broken, it don't need to be fixed, but it's not perfect. Nothing's perfect, and that's just a really amazing message. Kind of change the subject here. I was curious to, like, whenever y'all are walking, what are the obstacles when it comes to wildlife? You said something earlier about the weather, the plan for weather. Well, y'all plan for wildlife too? Do y'all look into y'all's path and say, there's a major bear population here? Do we want them to mess with us while we're sleeping? Do y'all have precautions, stuff like that?
Yeah, in all the states that have any amount of bear population, we carry a couple of bear sprays with us. And we actually did see a bear one time in Wisconsin, of all places. Mm-hmm. And luckily it didn't come at us. We saw it sprinting through the woods. It kind of looked like it was coming at us at first. That was pretty scary, but we're all right. And our biggest concern with wildlife, honestly, is dogs that are off leash or not behind a fence or something. Yeah. There's a few states that have a much larger problem than others where they're all over the place. And because our dog is older and a male, he is often targeted. A lot of male dogs don't like him, so we have a lot of caution with that. We have to protect him a lot. We've been chased many, many times.
Just on our way into Keogh, we had a pack of like 6 pit bulls sprint out of the field to come harass us, you might say. And the problem is, if we were by ourselves, sure, we could make friends with them and they'd probably follow us down the road too far. But with Jack, we have to protect him and they want to eat his face. Yeah. And so you're forced into yelling them off or guarding against them in some way. And you kind of have to intimidate them. It's a little bit, as much as we're trying to spread positivity, some people have heard us walking through their neighborhood sounding like a police officer trying to break down their door, because you have to get pretty aggressive to get them off your tail.
Yeah, it works.
And in the South, like Alabama and Georgia, Tennessee was really bad too. We had to allot 1 to 2 hours extra every day, leave earlier to account for the dogs that we would have to chase off. It was just a feature of the walk there.
On the survival aspect of things, when y'all are camping and doing all that, have y'all ever had to hunt for food, like fish or deer or anything like that?
No, we've always prepared. Like we'll research an area quite a lot before we go there. We look at how far the stores are apart, and we plan for how we will store enough food. And in Montana, for example, like he was saying, we went through 125 miles without a grocery store. So we had 14 gallons of water storage, over 100 pounds of water storage, and we had 2 large bear canisters that we would ship ourselves dry food and some vacuum sealed dehydrated food for our puppy. We make them homemade food. And
Yeah, and just to clarify, I had said 225 miles earlier.
oh yeah.
It was 2 stretches. One was a 95-mile stretch,
Yeah.
and the other was
120.
125, 130. So those were in 2 chunks that we were walking through.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've never had to hunt for food. Honestly, a lot of people imagine that along the way, but it does not work out practically because you're always in public. You're right next to the road all the time. You might tuck away, like if you need to go stealth camp because you don't have someone hosting you.
Yeah.
But then you have to worry about, there's a few different things. If you're in the kind of situation where you would need to hunt because you're so far between towns, you're limited on water also. And then you have the cleanup process of like skinning something. You got to do something with all the blood and all the... You don't normally have access to the amount of water that you need to process an animal.
Or the
Yeah.
equipment probably.
You end up not even washing your hands because you're like just sanitizing all the time so that you can conserve water. Water
Mhm.
is weight to carry and pounds are pain.
A lot of weight.
Lots of weight.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
Miss Page, have you ever had any, like, have you ever ventured before doing this? Like, have you ever been, hold on, what's the word? Have you ever thought about adventuring before this adventure right here, like this 2 years?
When we met, I was still living in my hometown, and I had hardly done any even real camping, and much less backpacking the mountains like Torin had. I had very little experience. I was very intrigued when we met about his stories of backpacking the mountains and his ideas of future adventures, but I had no idea that I would be doing this. I wouldn't believe you if you told me that I would be walking the country a few years ago. I was very introverted and shy and had a hard time talking to people and was not nearly as resilient as we've learned to be.
So this helped you mentally too, and
Oh, yes.
like a lot. So
Tremendously.
that's good.
Yeah, that's great. So, along your journey, I'm sure we've hit this point a little bit, but like you said, like y'all both said, actually, this is more for yourselves rather than, obviously, that's another good thing that comes from it is the perspective y'all might give on other people and the good y'all bring them and how y'all might help them. But it's helped yourselves a lot, like mentally. I'm sure even physically it's helped y'all a lot. I'm sure y'all are in the best shape y'all ever been right now, you know? I mean, that's just an assumption. I don't know.
I would like to say that we
Fluctuating.
were, but not really.
No.
We used to be avid gym goers, and it was 6
Yeah.
days a week at the gym.
Had
Yeah.
a lot more muscle.
Yeah, I used to look a lot better than I do now. You guys down here feeding us too many sweets.
Yeah. It's been very friendly.
Yeah. Yeah, down here, I mean, there's a lot of good places up there at Charlotte. I'm changing subject. I was just curious. Up there at Charlotte, y'all like those pies?
Oh, yeah. They were
Yeah.
fantastic. We got to try the coconut and the caramel.
Got to meet Charlotte herself. She told us all
Yeah.
about the inception of the business, and
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure we left Keo with an extra 5 pounds.
I believe it. I really do.
That well, on y'all's long walks, the aches, do they begin to you? Like, do y'all just have to sit down because your body just feel like you can't walk anymore?
Yeah, we take a decent amount of breaks when we can afford to. It's more difficult with the sun setting so early right now.
Yeah.
This time of year is especially hard on the walk. There's some days where we have been just approaching our host home, knowing that we're going to get there right as the sun sets, and we're rushing, and we've limped our way to camp numerous times.
We've suffered several repetitive motion injuries. I'm still dealing with one from the Dakotas in my shoulder. The Dakotas have incredible winds. It just so our dollies, because of the signs on them, they drag you around the road a little bit too much when the wind is really high, and you wrestle with it with your arms all day. It's not just your legs. So I've been dealing with that now. I carried a repetitive motion injury in my foot through almost the entire South. I was wearing a brace, and just little things that pop up here and there, a catch in your knee or something like that. But
yeah, my foot feels pretty messed up. The few weeks off didn't do anything.
They say necessity is the mother of invention, but necessity is also the catalyst for knowing what you're capable of.
Yeah. When it comes to y'all's health, how do y'all take measures to make sure y'all are still healthy? You know, do y'all go to hospitals, local hospitals, clinics, you know, checkups? Y'all get that done?
We've never been to a doctor of any kind on the walk, actually. We've been sick a few times, but we've kind of roughed it out. We had some sort of respiratory cold flu thing, and I was sick for about 9 days last winter walking through the South in the cold, and that was really difficult, but
yeah,
I got through it. We try to eat healthy when we can. Obviously, we eat with a lot of people, so it's difficult.
Mm-hmm.
We like to be accommodating and not put any pressure on anyone to make any kind of thing, but
We're all about that preventative medicine before anything else. I'll go to the
Yeah.
doctor when I'm sick, but probably not before.
Yeah.
So when y'all get home from, what do y'all call the start with the S? What do y'all call them?
Oh, a segment?
Segments.
Oh.
Do y'all? So y'all don't go to the doctor or like get a checkup to see if everything's well?
No. No, I mean, yeah, I think for me, I try to stay fairly in touch with my body. I'll go to the doctor when I actually feel a true problem coming up, but otherwise, your regular checkup and the things that it's vetting for, I'm not too concerned about until I can actually notice it for myself.
yeah, we're pretty health conscious. When we're home, we eat a lot more vegetables, plant-based food, and healthy meats and whatnot.
Yeah.
Have y'all ever broke any bones on these walks or like hurt yourselves? Like y'all haven't?
No, not yet.
I hope
Fingers
hope
crossed.
everything goes well. But like, it's just a thought.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thankfully.
Trying to think here. So, have y'all had any crazy experiences with weather, or do y'all plan that out? And then I got another question after this about the planning, because that's it sounds very sophisticated.
Weather has been, we've gotten so lucky a lot of the time. We've been through 5 hailstorms, a tornado.
3
couple of-
snows.
Yep. A couple of them were basically like momentary blizzards. All sorts of rain. I mean, more thunderstorms than we could count.
Mm-hmm.
I think more than 3 months of heat that was over 95 degrees in total.
The heat is one of the hardest things.
Yeah, I figured that because walking in heat in the snow, them two, that's like cold and hot. You can't. Sometimes you can have a heat stroke or something.
You can't
just
escape
get
it.
hard, yeah.
Yeah.
Drinking hot water when it's 95 or to 100 degrees is really
Yeah.
difficult. It's not very refreshing.
It's not. But thankfully, people have saved us in a lot of those instances.
Mm-hmm.
In one instance, for the tornado, a police officer knew about an incoming storm, and so they had actually picked us up to take us to a park that had a tornado shelter there, which we were able to sit out the tornado in. One of the hailstorms, there was a gentleman who pulled over on the side of the road. He had a hardcover on the back of his truck, but he had a truck full of kids, so he couldn't just let us in the truck. I mean, it was like totally packed in there. And he popped the hardcover, and we just took shelter under it for a while. He sat on the side of the road for over a half an hour to wait it out for us.
Yeah.
Another one, we had just bumped into these fishermen that had been visiting the Dollar General we were resupplying at. They invited us over to their camp to eat some trout with them for the night, which we took them up on. And as the hail came down, they invited us into their camper.
That was really bad. We couldn't scream to hear each other. It was pounding on the roof so hard it would have been dangerous if we were outside. It lined up really well.
So the great people that y'all met, y'all seen more good in the world. Like a lot of people think like 85% of the world is bad. Like people are like don't care about anybody anymore. But like on y'all's journey, y'all met like y'all seen a difference in that and a change in that.
Yeah, part of this walk is motivated to help improve the world in certain ways, because I think one of the bad aspects that does exist in the world is that people have grown apathetic and complacent because of the way that they see the world. They're not inspired to do good because they feel like it's a lost cause. And that's one of the things that we're trying to show through our sort of positive filter bubble that we've created on our social media is like, look, if you just like put yourself in the right circumstance, you'll see that there's good in the world everywhere. Lots of people want to be good, but it's tricky to say, right? We've created a filter bubble not only through our social media, but for ourselves. Most of the people that seek us out to give us the thumbs up and help support us along the way. Not a lot of people want to go out of their way just to give you a bad day.
Yeah.
But it's hard to say for sure what the actual ratio would be. I think it's all probably pretty subjective and according to the lens that we're looking through.
Yeah. So back to when it comes to planning everything out, like it seems like y'all put a lot of thought into everything when it comes to where you walk, when you walk to where, and how you get there. How do y'all go about this? How did y'all start that process? How did you figure out that process to figure out where you're actually going to go, you know?
Our first 6 months, I don't know if we said when we started, our goal was not to walk every state. It was just to go from Missouri through Kansas into Denver, Colorado. So we were not very prepared. When we decided to keep walking, we just started heading south, knowing winter was coming. And next thing you know, we're from New Mexico, Texas, and Oklahoma. It was like October through mid-November, and we had a lot of 15-degree nights, and it was very cold. Luckily, we had a big, giant 0-degree sleeping bag, but we were not very prepared, and we've learned a lot just through experience, through making mistakes, and we've looked into gear very thoroughly to make sure we have waterproof gear, which is very, very difficult to find, believe it or not. Most rain jackets are not waterproof.
Mm-hmm.
Not for the long haul, anyway.
Yeah.
There's this breathable and waterproof. That's just it's not waterproof for long if it's breathable.
It's not like then when it's not breathable and y'all not walking to too much water, you're hot.
Yeah.
And it'll
That's the
build
sacrifice.
condensation
Yeah.
inside.
Just gotta accept sweating if you want to wear a rain suit.
Yeah. It seems like there's more and more planning that goes into it as time goes on. I wonder if we won't step away from it a little bit in the future, because part of the whole intention is to acclimate to uncertainty. But we're definitely most concerned about traffic.
Yeah.
Trying to plan our way around that more than anything.
Yeah. So it's not more or less y'all are, planning where y'all want to go per se. It's just based on traffic and the road.
Yeah, they could, like the traffic could be one of the worst conditions y'all could walk in, because you never know when somebody's not paying attention on the road or somebody gets in an accident, tire fall off. You never know what's going to happen in traffic on the highway. So, yeah, that's good to plan, too.
Yeah. Have y'all ever walked on the interstate? Or
No,
well, let me rephrase that, because I know on those long stretches, I know more north there are interstates, but they're more or less 2-lane. But like, have you ever walked on like a 4-lane interstate?
we haven't walked any interstates. They're illegal in almost every state to walk. There's a handful that aren't, but we've walked on several highways with larger shoulders.
Yeah.
Well, and 4 lanes for that matter.
Yeah, almost always.
One of our greatest motivations to avoid sandwiching ourselves in the wrong sort of traffic situation came from Bloomfield. Is that right?
Bloomington.
Illinois, where we were walking this 4-lane road into the city. And one of the things that you'll find if you're walking is that there's usually this bottleneck that occurs as you make your way into or out of a town where the shoulder just drops off. It's there in the town, or there's a sidewalk at least, and it's there outside of the town. But as you get into it, there's just this, it's like, it's so hard to traverse just this one spot when you first enter the town. That happened there in Illinois.
It was like a 200,000 population of two cities that were both 200,000 right next to each other.
So there's one bridge into the city,
Mm-hmm.
and we had walked up to it on the outside of a guardrail so that we could avoid being in the lane with the traffic because the shoulder had just dropped off and there was none. It was rush hour. There were 4 lanes, and I mean, thousands of vehicles. I mean, it looked like New York. It was incredible.
Coming over a hill of a bridge.
Coming over a hill that's totally blind, and then we finally reach the bridge itself and realize we cannot continue on the outside of the guardrail. There's nothing. It's just a concrete barrier. It's road up against a concrete barrier, and so we had to pick up our dollies, which were even heavier at the time, over this guardrail. So I'm standing in the lane with traffic over a blind hill because we had walked on the outside of this guardrail for like 2 miles to get there. And we're picking them up and putting them in the lane of traffic.
So Torrin's back is facing the cars, and I'm almost not strong enough to get it over because can't really lift it that high typically.
Yeah.
The cars can't see
So
us.
scary.
We can't see the cars that are coming. It was just...
Some of the scariest
racing.
moments.
Yeah, you're
Car
like
was
shaking
racing.
at the end of it.
Yeah, it was something calling for a nightmare, but it's good. It all played out perfect, you know.
Yeah.
I got a question. I want to hit a topic here. Are y'all religious? Like, do y'all? I know y'all talking about the faith of other people. Do y'all seek faith in God per se, or any other religion to keep you motivated throughout this journey?
I would say that publicly we remain ideologically neutral in that respect.
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
we want to
I
carry our
respect
message to every kind of person.
Yeah.
There are definitely some deeper underpinnings to the walk.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think all of our information otherwise should be able to stand on its own.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
'cause
I respect that
If
a
you
lot.
throw a lot of religion at, if you throw one religion at the whole world
Yeah.
is not gonna come back at you, because they don't believe in. A lot of people don't believe in the same thing other people believe in, and if you stay neutral and you just see good, because a lot of people see good. So if you just see good, they're gonna see good in you, and they're gonna listen.
Yeah.
Some people.
Yeah.
We agree. Yeah, we want to show people that you can find goodness everywhere. Whether it's, you'll find acts of kindness and goodness in atheists and Christians and Hindus and Buddhists and Muslims. It's all over the place.
Yeah.
And we're appealing to something that we all share in common, which is not necessarily our beliefs, but we all share many of the same mental mechanics in common, and we can improve those in such a way that we all get along better regardless of religious ideology.
Yeah, yeah, and that's really special, and I respect that so much. You wanna be able to go for everybody and spread your message towards everybody rather than seeming like you're spreading your message to a certain demographic or a certain amount of group of people.
Definitely.
And I respect that a lot.
We appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah.
We get asked that question a lot. I think a lot of people are interested to know, is it religiously motivated? Because there are so many people that, I mean, weirdly enough, it seems like half the people that have walked across the country were walking for Jesus.
Yeah, and I didn't want to make any assumptions either. I was just genuinely curious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, hold on. But so, if when I heard like the segment where y'all are going to Nevada, and how would you think you would plan for, because that Nevada in the summer, you said you were going in the summer. Nevada in the summer, it gets hot and humid, and all that stuff. How y'all think y'all plan for that one?
It'll probably be late winter into spring. Do you
Yeah.
think?
Nevada's it's pretty cool for a large part of the year. I actually lived in Vegas for about 6 months, and it was chilly at times. But people don't know that about the desert. We didn't know that about the desert,
Yeah.
and that's why the coldest weather we've experienced on the whole walk was in New Mexico.
Yep.
We thought
Mm-hmm.
desert, it's going to be warm.
Mhm.
No, it was not. It was not warm.
It was in
Yeah.
high elevation still.
But likely we will line it up. We're shooting to end this segment probably right as the worst part of winter is over. And then as the spring comes on, after we've taken a break, we would be shipping over to Nevada.
Yeah. Well, is there any word y'all? Is there anything y'all like from
Words of
everybody? to know?
encouragement, like for the people.
Ooh. What about you, baby? You got anything?
I think a lot of people struggle to feel like they can impact the world. Everyone thinks, oh, it's helpless. I can't change the world, because if you're trying to make a change, you're likely not going to see the entire world change because of your impact. But we can't underestimate the power of changing one person at a time. We're all affecting everyone we interact with.
It's true. You know, lives get changed through the domino effect.
Mm-hmm.
And we all want these big, giant results, but it just doesn't work that way. I mean, very few of us have the reach or the power to do anything like that. Paige and I, of course, want to reach as many people as we can. And because we didn't take a sort of defeatist or futile view of the world when we started doing this, you know, we didn't have any followers. We started that first 6 months, we had nothing. We were doing it for ourselves, and then we were like, let's talk to people about it. We'll see what we can accomplish. And now, just in the last month, we have had about 2.7 million views, and we've reached over 700,000 people, individuals, over the last 28 days.
Wow.
And so to get that many eyes on what we're trying to do, it's not going to be life-changing for every one of them, but some of them will grab hold of the message that we're putting forward. We know because they send us messages and they express their gratitude for the change that we've been in their lives. It all starts somewhere. And we all ripple outward, you know, in our interactions with other people. We can be affected by the negativity and then carry that negativity with us. But in the same way that we can be affected by negativity, we can affect other people with positivity and allow that positivity to affect others.
Yeah.
Well, we'd like to thank y'all for coming on. We're going to reach the end of this podcast here. We'd like to thank y'all for coming on and talking to us and, like, giving the insights on y'all and y'all walking y'all journey. We'll see y'all later, Walking America couple.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
having us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.